Hello, I'm Helen Cooper, and today I'm sharing 3 books that made me want to be a writer and be a better writer. So the first one is a book I read when I was 11 or 12, The Tulip Touch by Anne Fine. I was a huge fan of Anne Fine, and this book has always stuck with me, partly I think because of the cover and the title, and also that fantastic strapline, "No one is born evil, no one." I mean, how can you not want to read that? I vividly remember the main character. I loved that she was called Tulip, but what I mainly remember is the ending, so the acceleration and the tension towards the end. I really felt that something bad was going to happen, so it seemed almost inevitable, but I was still absolutely on the edge of my seat waiting to see what that something would be. And I remember thinking, imagine being able to make somebody feel that, a reader, feel that kind of breathless tension. And that's always stuck with me, I think, as I started to write. It took me a while to actually finish a book, ever. I always seem to abandon them after a few chapters, but when I did, I remembered that sense of acceleration and tension towards the climax, and I always tried to recreate that. So the second book is on my Kindle here, and it's My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. So what I remember thinking when I first read this was how clever it was in terms of the way it constantly wrong-footed the reader. You constantly change your mind about Rachel herself and about Philip Ashley, who is another character in the book, about who is guilty, who is telling the truth, who is telling lies. And I seem to remember almost every chapter I changed my mind about what the situation was, about whether she really had poisoned his cousin, whether she was trying to poison him. And more recently, when I felt this was when I was reading Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and she does the same thing where you're constantly flipping back and forth in terms of what you believe. And I read My Cousin Rachel probably 3 or 4 times, just trying to look for those moments where she really kind of wrong-foots you or pulls the rug out from underneath you. And again, that's something that I really tried to recreate, particularly when I was writing The Downstairs Neighbour, and it's a lot of fun. And finally, and sort of continuing on this theme of manipulating the reader, is we need to talk about Kevin. So I was blown away when I first read this, firstly just by how well she writes in this second person. So it's all written through letters to an absent husband, addressing them as you. And secondly, what this book taught me is how to keep a secret throughout the whole book, how to prolong a reveal without it becoming frustrating or just silly. And she does this brilliantly. And again, a little bit like with My Cousin Rachel, she wrong-foots you in terms of what you think is going on in the novel, in terms of what the situation is with the actual letters and the person she's writing to. And she keeps the secret, she withholds the information about what the huge atrocity is that her son has committed right until the very end. We follow his story, we build up to it, and although we get hints, we never actually find out the full extent of what he's done until the end. And the way that she does it is just so brilliant and so satisfying that, again, I thought, I want to do that, I want to do that well. And the other thing that this book taught me, which was really lovely for me at the time, as I was an aspiring writer, was that Lionel Shriver's first novel didn't make a huge splash. It was quite well received, it got some decent reviews, but it wasn't huge, and she kind of built up to We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was huge and won the Orange Prize for Fiction. And so it did show that you can kind of start a little smaller and build up to that big novel that really defines your career. And that's, again, a great thing and a great lesson, I think, for any writer to learn.